Are you a fluid dater? Are you familiar with what fluid dating is? A growing number of LGBTQIA+ people, especially younger individuals, are rejecting rigid identity categories in favour of a more open and intuitive approach to dating. That's according to Hinge's newly released LGBTQIA+ Date Data Advice Trends Expertise report, Love Beyond Labels, which surveyed about 14,000 LGBTQIA+ and heterosexual users around the world. The dating app found that queer daters are moving away from fixed identity categories in favour of so-called label fluid dating. The study also reveals growing label fatigue and a desire to define attraction on one's own terms. LGBTQIA+ daters are done with being boxed in, notes the report. They're prioritising chemistry, emotional connection, and shared energy over rigid identity categories. The report also uncovers the often overlooked impact of labels on how individuals express themselves when dating. Half of LGBTQIA+ daters said that they have felt pressure to present as more masculine or more feminine in order to attract someone. And nearly a third of those later regretted not staying true to themselves. Additionally, 28% of LGBTQIA+ daters reported feeling label fatigue, a number that jumps to 48% amongst queer identifying individuals. Are labels putting pressure on me to show up a certain way with people I'm interested in? How do I want to express myself authentically? The report asks, encouraging users to reflect on how identity terms may restrict rather than empower. Hinge also found that a significant number of daters are challenging their own preferences, at least in thought. 1 in 3 users admitted to having considered dating someone outside of their usual gender preference. But more than half didn't act on those feelings. Amongst those who hesitated, 50% doubted their feelings, 34% were unfamiliar with queer dating, and 25% feared rejection. Yet for those who did take the leap, attraction was sparked less by appearance and more by connection. Amongst users who experienced unnecessary or unexpected attraction, 80% said it was about the person's energy and vibe. 48% cited confidence, and 48% said humour sealed the deal. If we let assumptions guide who we pursue or dismiss, we risk missing out on magical relationships. Compatibility isn't necessarily about matching labels. It's about how you show up for each other. Unsurprisingly, Generation Z is one of the forefront of this cultural shift, with greater access to diverse representation and language around gender and sexuality. Gender Z daters are more likely to challenge traditional dating scripts compared to millennials. Generation Z LGBTQIA+ daters are 21% more likely to date people with a range of gender expressions, 22% more likely to be open to sexual connections outside their typical gender preference, and 39% more likely to reconsider their own sexuality labels based on unexpected attraction. This trend reflects a wider movement amongst younger queer daters to build relationships based on emotional resonance and shared values, rather than traditional types. Whether they're exploring new labels, challenging old assumptions, or prioritizing emotional connection over fixed types, one thing is clear: the future of dating is fluid, expansive, and entirely self-defined. American LGBTQ+ media advocacy group GLAAD GLAAD welcomed the report as GLAAD continues to track the alarming rise in anti-LGBTQ+ violence and rhetoric from book brands to legislative moves, particularly targeting transgender people. Research and insight like these remind us that LGBTQ people are still choosing joy, connection, and personal truth over anything else. LGBTQ people, especially trans and queer daters, are carving out space to explore love on their own terms, rather than adhering to traditional labels or rigid expectations. They're choosing authenticity, fluidity, and self-defined connection. I believe in all love and matchmake all identities and orientations. If you are looking for your special person, or insight and coaching on how to keep them, contact me through my site.